Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Speech Check. I'm Sam.
And I'm Matt.
And this is episode 17.
And today, we're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, the PS5, and our favourite gaming protagonists. But before we talk about any of that, Sam, what have you been playing?
I have been playing Bioshock, a continuation of what I mentioned last week, or last time.
Mm-hmm.
I finished the first one. It was good. As good as I remember. The combat was more basic, I think, than I remember. It was just... The telekinesis just breaks that game, as I think I've mentioned before.
Mm.
But it was good. It wasn't like I was going back and thinking, oh, this is a lot worse than it was. Played the challenge rooms for the first time, which were apparently like a PS3 exclusive thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I never saw them before. But yeah, they were good. There's only 3 of them.
Mm.
And they're primarily puzzle type things with a few combat things thrown in. So there's one where you have to save the little sister in each of the scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one where she's at the top of this Ferris wheel, and you have to find ways of electrifying the control panel to move it, I think like six times. And you pick up like the tonic, I think it's static discharge, I think it's called, where when you get hit, so you want to get hit by a splicer near that to power it up.
Mm.
You can find electric buckshot ammo, all little things like that. You get like a electric gel from the chemical thrower, so there's all little things you can do to interact with the wheel. So it builds enough on the aspects from the world and kind of creates like a little puzzle room out of it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool, yeah.
I think the protector trials from the second one are a bit more of an established version of that. But I'll get onto that because I have started the second one, but I'll go through in order.
I remember liking the protector trials a lot more than...
Yeah, just felt a bit more fleshed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, finished all that. It was a little bit buggy on some things, only on the achievement side of it, so just some things didn't unlock at certain times, like going through the game and saving all the little sisters. When I finished it, that just didn't happen. So I was aware that things like that were... Or no, I made like a save in every area in case I needed to go back or in case I needed to backtrack in some way.
Mm.
So I made a save just before you fight Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And then just replayed the save, did it again, then it unlocked. And I had to kind of partially replay it to get all the research bonuses.
Okay.
Because I finished it on, I think, the security bots, and it just didn't unlock.
Oh.
So, yeah, a bit annoying, but I think it only took me like an extra hour. I think I just reloaded a save from Arcadia. So it wasn't too bad.
The life of a achievement hunter is not an easy one.
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes everything goes to plan, but you can't always... With stuff like that, it's just like, oh. But yeah, start Bioshock 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make a slightly controversial statement.
Ooh, go on.
In that, I think if Bioshock 2, I think it's lost in the shadow of the original. So playing that one through, I think I only maybe played the campaign once, possibly twice.
Mm.
And it's not really... I remember like bits and pieces, like a couple of the locations and various aspects of the story, but it's pretty much run-of-the-mill. Like you don't play it for the story. It's not a memorable one as say the first one is.
Mm.
But because it didn't get to make that first impression that the first one did, it kind of just gets lost amongst it. And then obviously Infinite kind of breaks away from that because it's got its own art style and stuff like that.
Mm.
But it builds on pretty much everything the first one establishes, and it does. I would say it does everything just that much better.
Mm-hmm.
The UI in particular as well. It's brighter, it's more visual, it's a bit clearer. Even little things like, when you go to unlock a keycode door, when you go to, say you might get an audio diary that has that in the first one, and then if you're not really paying attention, that can just be like, oh, did I get that code? I don't really know.
Mm.
But if you've got that code from a diary on the second one, when you go to a door which you have the code for, it will just pop up next to it and say, oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
Mm.
So just little things like that, little quality of life things, and little bits and pieces that just make it that much better than the original.
I agree that 2 got a bit forgotten, really. The story's not as strong. It strays a little bit from the horror of the first. And
it's definitely more action orientated, yeah.
But yeah, it gets, like you said, for the quality of life improvements, it gets forgotten for that. It is a lot more accessible as a game, and the mechanics are a bit more tight. I always felt like I was playing more of a polished experience, maybe? Not to say one is unpolished, but...
I think, say that, I think by contrast, it makes the first one seem very unpolished. Like there's just not a lot of detail in the environments. There's not a lot of like story and stuff there, but it's like it feels like the main set pieces of Bioshock 1, so like Fort Frolic and Arcadia, the main areas themselves were established quite well, but then the finer details within those wasn't too much. It was like, okay, just fill these with your standard like crates, bins, all these are standard assets that you can just search through and get loot. But the second one just has, I don't know, the environments just feel a bit more, they've taken that much more time with it to add that extra layer of detail. But going back to what you said about the action, I think because in this one you're a big daddy and you have to do the mini horde survival segments where you protect the sister.
Yeah.
It seems to spawn the enemies a lot faster as well. Like if you go out of a room and maybe go 2 rooms away from where you were, you'll easily have 2 or 3 more splicers just respawn in that area. Whereas the first one was a bit more like there's 2 or 3 splicers, and then after 5 minutes, or if you leave the area, like, or if you unload the area by going somewhere else and then come back, then the enemies would appear. Fair enough. But this one feels like it's throwing a lot more things at you. Maybe that's because of the context of the story, because you are a big daddy. I don't know, but I think that's where it definitely teeters into the action genre more than the horror of the first one.
Yeah, in the first game, from what I remember, the combat is more poignant. Like it's when you come across enemies, it's like an event. It's like a difficult, it's an encounter that you have to navigate. Whereas in Bioshock 2, action is kind of just part of the loop. You kind of do it a lot. It's not quite so much of a poignant event. Not to downplay it or anything, but like you said, you have splicers spawning pretty regularly, and you've got the defending segments. It just becomes a part of the gameplay rather than an obstacle within the environment.
Yeah, like you said, it's a much more common event to happen, to just like, it's not so much of a surprise, and you don't really think about it as much because you bump into them so regularly that it's just another thing you have to deal with. Like I said, it's just a part of the gameplay. So, But yeah, I'm having fun with it. And on top of that, I've added to my gaming machines. I got a PS4.
Ooh, nice.
So, a bit late to the party, what with the PS5 coming out. But I had Danielle had a voucher from where she works to get some tech, and I think she had some credit from the last one she didn't spend, so she had enough on there to get me a PS4 for free. So
nice. I'm
happy about that. And I got a copy of Spider-Man Game of the Year edition with that, so I got all like the DLC and stuff with it. I haven't got too far into it. I've only done like the first like little bit where you fight Fisk and then kind of save from there. I'm a bit systematic with my game, so if I'm in the middle of something, which I am with Bioshock 2, I don't like to have like 2 concurrent stories running.
Okay, fair enough.
So I like to offer like all my single player focus to one specific game usually. So yeah, I'll get into it eventually, but at the moment, no, just sticking to that. But yeah, that's the bulk of what I've been playing. Matt, what have you been playing?
So, as from the last episode, I said I was playing Maneater, and I feel like I spoiled the game a little bit for myself. I got right into it, and I was kind of enjoying being a shark and eating stuff and doing things like that. That was fun. But I took it upon myself to really explore all of the environments and look around for all of the collectibles and stuff and try and just do everything in each of the areas before moving on to the next, and trying to level myself up to the point where you have certain abilities that will allow you to go back to previous areas and then explore them more thoroughly. So I was like 100%ing every area, and I'm about 60% of the way through the story, and I'm max level. I have like a shark build that works for me. There were some outlets saying that the building element of the shark, like where you use different genetic materials to have like stone shield on your face and like an electric tail and all this kind of stuff, it was a bit shallow. I found it to be quite cool to mix and match, and I put my abilities together that were complementary. They allow me to take on anything in the sea and also take on the hunters that come after you when you start killing enough people and stuff. But yeah, 60% of the way through the story, I'm max level. There's now no point in me fighting any of the hunters because I've killed each of the 10 named hunters. So now I just get max level boats that come out, but there's no point in me killing them because killing them would yield either experience that I don't need or the opportunity to fight one of the named hunters, which I can't do. So that whole aspect of the game is just gone now. There's no point in me doing that. it happens and I just go underwater and wait until they go away. So it's kind of...
So the pacing's slightly off. That's not your fault, right? You've
No,
done what the game has presented to you.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. The reason why I was exploring so thoroughly is because I was enjoying it. But yeah, it felt like the early portion of the game was quite well paced out, like being a pup shark and going around the bayou and slowly building up to the point where you can fight alligators. It felt kind of cool, like getting used to the underwater combat. And now I'm a mega shark, so I'm just able to eat most stuff without really thinking about it, and it just become a bit. I'm too powerful, basically. You get too powerful too soon, and I don't really feel like grinding through the last 4 hours of the game. I might do it just to see the end of the story, but it's gotten a bit flat.
It must have captured your attention to some degree, because generally going through and getting collectibles and things like that is more of like an achievement trophy hunter thing to do. If you're not going to do that unless you're right into the game, so it must have captured your attention to quite a high degree.
I think the traversal and the environments are both interesting. It's interesting enough to make you want to engage with them. So I guess it's kind of like in Assassin's Creed, free running and climbing, they're fun parts of the game. Like that whole loop is quite an interesting thing to engage with. So you might end up looking for the extra little collectibles because it's just fun to climb to the top of some famous ancient building or something. That's just a fun thing to do in and of itself.
Yeah,
that was what I found. Like trying to work out how I could jump high enough out of the water to collect a I don't know, what is it? It's a license plate. They've got license plates that you can eat. To collect a license plate was kind of fun. But yes, it's a bit sour at the minute. So I've also been playing Fallout 4. And I'm sticking with the melee and big guns, which, again, I'm finding a kind of similar curve, almost in reverse to Maneater, where in the early game, Fallout 4's big guns, there's just no support for being a big guns user in the early game, and I found myself having to carry around either a pipe gun of some kind or a standard combat rifle, or shotgun, something, because I just run out of ammo. The only big gun you really have access to is the minigun, and 5mm ammo, even if you take... I specifically took the perk that gives you more ammo in containers, predicting the problem that I would not have enough ammo, and all
Stranger, I want to say?
Yeah, that's right.
That's good, yeah.
All I ended up with was like thousands and thousands of 308 bullets for a gun that I'm not really investing into, but... And then saying that, I got to this point where you could get aboard the Pridwin, and you speak to the
quartermaster.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Speak to the quartermaster, and he sells a Gatling laser, and it is so amazing. Like it overshadows every other big gun up until that point, except maybe the missile launcher. But that runs into the same problem that missiles are insanely expensive. You only get,
and they're very rare.
Yeah,
just within the world.
You don't really find them. They're not like a commonplace thing to use. And I don't use power armor, but that's a different discussion for a different time. So I had a ton of these fusion.
Well,
cores.
you're not a real man then, to be honest. You're not using power armor, but carry on.
I think I am a real man because I don't use power armor.
Yeah, you're a better man. Yeah, better man than I.
Yeah, I have a ton of fusion cores, so I have like 30 or something, and each one of them has 500 rounds of the Gatling laser, and I could just burn down absolutely everything. And then when you get into Far Harbor, one of the early heavy guns you can get there is the Admiral's Friend. I think it's about 4,000 caps from the quartermaster in the harbor.
Is that the one that shoots harpoons?
Yeah, it's a harpoon gun,
and it's got. If I remember right, it has a legendary effect it does 1.5 damage if you strike first.
Double damage on full health opponents.
Okay, so it's not whatever. There's one called Instigator, which if you fight first does that. But yeah, that's. Do you know, I have a glitch in my Fallout 4, and that I can never buy that because I can't speak to the quartermaster.
What did you do to him?
He would. I don't know. Maybe I offended him by saying his entire fucking port. But no, it won't do. It's like when you talk to someone, they're like, "Hello there," and they won't like engage with you.
Oh man, that's frustrating.
So yeah, but sorry, carry on.
You couldn't even kill him and get off of him because they don't like carry.
That's not how that. Yeah, that's not how their inventory works. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that does double damage on full health opponents, and because I've invested perks into big guns, raw damage is about 260. So I've gone from not having enough ammo to engage in almost... I couldn't do any real combat. I was having to sneak around and rely on melee a lot more than I would have liked to. And now I have a gun that basically one-shots everything because I'm doing over 500 damage with my first harpoon, which is a lot in game sense. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I've got the broadsider as well, which is a laugh. But yeah,
is that the cannon?
Yeah,
the literal hand cannon. Yeah,
it's actually a cannon. Yeah, you get it from Ironsides on the USS Constitution.
Yeah,
that's fun. Besides those two, I bought Mordhau because I love a sword fight. I do. And I put about 10 hours into it, and I'm just not sure how I feel about the combat. It's just kind of odd. Like, I've come from I played a bit of Chivalry. It was fun. And I played a fair amount of For Honor. I was never great at it, but I enjoyed the game. And in Mordhau, you have, like... I don't know how to describe it, besides you have, like, live hitboxes. So if you imagine in Smash, when you commit to a move, you will either move a fixed distance or stop and put out that hitbox, and then the hitbox goes away, and it's they last like fractions of a second. In Mordhau, when you swing a sword, it goes out in front of you, and then it's active for the whole time the sword is on the screen, which means if you move your view around, you manipulate the hitbox. So you get some kind of weird... The fights always look really strange when they're 1v1s, because you'll get characters like throwing out an attack and then immediately like shooting their gaze up to the sky, with their entire like back snaps in half as their sword like shoots upwards, as people are trying to catch people either early or late with the developing hitbox.
Has this been done by design? Or something people have found?
It's taught in the tutorial. They call it delaying and accelerating. So if you start a swing and then look towards the swing, so you look in the direction that your swing begins, you'll hit with the later part of the hitbox, whereas if you turn into the swing, so if you turn away from where your sword appears, you'll hit with the earlier part. So you can manipulate when it hits your opponent so you can put off their timing for doing a parry. But I just struggle to get on with it. Because you get, you'll have like... I enjoy the big scale battles, like you've got some dude on a catapult, you've got a halberd, and there's some guy coming up and attacking you, and you're like poking him away, like get back, I'm trying to catapult you. And it feels like really frantic and crazy. There's heads and limbs flying around everywhere. It's cool. And then some like shirtless alpha guy just runs up to you, taunts, and then just like matrix dodges all of your hits because he knows exactly how to manipulate his view, and his like upper body is bending at insane angles as you're trying to poke him, and then you get punched out. And it feels terrible. Yeah, besides those games, I've also been binge-watching Forged in Fire, which is a competitive blacksmithing show, which I think I mentioned. I might have mentioned that in the last episode as well.
I think it's come up, and yeah, we've watched a few episodes of Forged in Fire, and it's hilariously easy to get into.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're like, I could be a blacksmith. I can make a knife. Look at that tang. He's going for a hidden tang. What are you playing at, mate?
It's like, when you watch the Olympics and everyone becomes like an expert on like the 3 bars, whatever it is. Everyone's like, oh, I don't do it like that. You call that a dismount?
Yeah, you just like get right into it. It's fun. And also watching Doug Markida pick up those knives at the end. It will cut.
Is he the edged weapon expert?
He is the edged weapon expert, Doug Markida, who I did a bit of research on because I was like, I've never heard of this guy. I don't know where he's from or anything, but
checking out his credentials.
Yeah, if he's an expert, want to see what that's all about. And apparently he trains, like, he was a Marine for a bit, but then he was a respiratory therapist for like 15 years. And then he went back to train the Marines on like edged weapons. So he's as much of a therapist as he is an edged weapon specialist. And then you've got Colonel Sanders sat right next to him. That guy I absolutely love.
Oh yeah.
That beefcake. Whenever he gets an axe in his hands, everyone's got to watch out. He goes mental. It's
the utter shame that they feel that you can physically see on their faces when they can't cut.
Yeah.
It's like they failed as a man. They're like, the blade is not good enough, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, that's been me.
Welcome, Isaac Clarke.
So that's what we've been playing. But Matt now is going to tell us about the releases. Matt, lead on.
I am. First release, Desperados III, coming us from Me Games. Came out June 16th, 2020. This is a tactical stealth shooter set in the Wild West. And it will be a very familiar game to anyone who's played any of the Commando series, which is like a kind of classic, I want to say 90s PC game, or the more recent Shadow Tactics, which is kind of a ninja variant on that. Imagine Tenchu, but in an isometric perspective with tactical elements. It looks like a very interesting game, and this sort of game is, personally, not for me. I struggle with real-time, small-scale strategy games like that. Everything is happening live, and you have to guide a team of, in this case, desperados in the Wild West around frontier towns and a whole bunch of different locations to achieve a goal. You're on a fairly classic Western story of revenge. It's pretty basic. It's your standard white hats killing black hats. Here's a bad guy, let's get to the bad guy. It tends to be the way things go. The artistic direction seems really good. It's got a kind of hyper-real feel to it, where it's not trying to emulate the Old West exactly. You've got like oversaturated colours, there's great silhouetting on all of the main characters and all of the NPCs in the game, so you can, if you want to zoom out and get a perspective on the whole battlefield, I guess I'll call it, you can do that, and you can still identify all of your players pretty easily. There's some interesting overlapping with the characters. So some of them are better in straight out open combat. They have like two guns and they can kill people simultaneously and stuff. Some of them are better in stealth, can throw knives or like use a bow or something. They can take people out quietly. And the one that interested me is they've got like a kind of saloon harlot character. And if you dress her up in certain clothes, you can have her walk out in view of the guards and distract their attention for your other characters to move through areas without being seen. And there are some areas that are less, I guess they play less like a traditional tactical stealth game and almost more like an isometric Hitman, where you can move around in an environment without having to, be crouched in bushes the whole time. You can like move through a crowd as long as you're not seen by guards or enemy characters. You can move through environments and not have to worry about being seen. Yeah, this is in terms of gameplay, it's your standard, view cones, noise, light, all a huge part of the core gameplay loop, and it's about killing people, hiding their bodies, and getting to the end. So again, very familiar to anyone who knows the Commando or the Shadow Tactics games. They have a similar pause mode as well, which those two games also have. It's called Showdown, and it allows you to kind of stop time or incredibly slow time and queue up actions, almost like a macro for your whole team, so that you can perform things as a simultaneous movement. So you can have someone shoot this way, throw a knife that way, or push a rock down onto someone. And that seems like it's incredibly satisfying. Executing like a complex web of decisions simultaneously and taking out a whole bunch of guards seems like a real laugh. Speaking of pushing rocks on people, there are also environmental options which won't alert guards to your presence. They'll become suspicious, but you could drop a church bell on someone and you won't immediately be, targeted out. Again, kind of like the Hitman games, which I found kind of interesting. I was
going to say, yeah, very much like the accident kills from Hitman.
Yeah, exactly like that. Another interesting addition is after every level, you get a zoomed out view of the entire level, and it gives you like a play-by-play of what you did and where you moved all your characters and when you use different items and stuff. And that seems kind of interesting. Not an essential part of gameplay, but it could be kind of fun to see what you did and then maybe where you could have gone better. And again, like Hitman, you have a score at the end of a level and you can go back and try and do it better, or you can up the difficulty slider and try and go back on a harder difficulty. It seems fun and in-depth for the kind of person who likes that tactical stealth experience. Again, personally, it's not for me, but I think it seems like an interesting game that you've really got to invest into, and it's definitely worth the bang for the buck. You get a lot of playtime out of it, like especially if you're going to go back through and try and get, try and have maximum efficiency in all the levels. So yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting one to come out, especially because this is a sequel to a game that's Desperados 2 came out in the mid-2000s, I believe. So it's been a long time coming. If fans of the series are probably elated at the return of Desperados 3. Yeah, that was kind of an interesting game, I thought. I not really heard too much about it in the lead up, and it just kind of popped out onto the scene. It seems like it's doing really well. So yeah, check that.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting. Sorry, it's interesting that because I just saw this crop up on my Facebook feed every now and then, and I am completely unaware of the Desperados series as a whole, and I just kind of brushed it off as, this is like a cheap-ish kind of almost like a Facebook-esque game that it was trying to get me to do, like almost like a Farmville Candy Crush saga sort of thing. I don't know why I thought that, but maybe because Facebook was the only place that I'd seen it. But yeah, it's interesting to hear you describe it as a much deeper experience. Incredibly deep.
Yeah, you've got a lot to get your teeth into if you're into this sort of game. So yeah, if you're into this kind of game, definitely check it out. It's worth the price to entry, I'd definitely say. Next up, how could we not talk about Last of Us Part 2? Coming at us from Naughty Dog, as I'm sure pretty much everyone's aware. 19th of June 2020. This is set 4 years after Last of Us 1, and you play Ellie for the lion's share of the game. I've not played through The Last of Us Part 1, or indeed played Part 2 at all. So this is going to, with a lot of these games, you know, I just kind of do a scrounge, do a search, see what people are saying about it, and then feed it back. So if I misspeak on any of the story beats or anything, please forgive me. There's a voracious fan base out there, and I don't want to be torn apart. So it's definitely an iterative sequel to the first, and if you're familiar with the first game, you'll be familiar with the core gameplay loop of this game. It's a third-person action stealth game. They've upped the exploration elements in this installment, and Ellie is a lot more nimble and lithe than Joel was. So she can mantle climb, go through narrow gaps in walls, climb ropes and stuff. The environment has just opened up a little bit more, and that allows for a lot more diversity in the combat. So the combat has also seen a little bit of an overhaul. It's basically the same, but it's just improved better than it was before. From what I saw of the melee combat as well, it's absolutely brutal. Like, it is not pulling its punches when you get like a stealth kill or something. There's some gross guttural gurgling going on. There's lots of like...
The first one was pretty visceral as well, with even just standard, like, you know, punching someone down was like, you could feel it, translated quite well.
Yeah, you can tell that Naughty Dog, attention to detail, you know, you're going to talk about a developer like Naughty Dog, you know it's going to be a good, well-considered game. And it's, aside from the, you know, that gameplay, those gameplay elements, it's an odd one because the fans apparently really didn't want it. There's a lot of fans who didn't want a part 2 to The Last of Us. They thought that The Last of Us was like a contained story. It finished, it ended, and that was it. And it's led to a weird reaction, which I just saw about this morning, where people are review bombing the game.
I saw this on Metacritic, yeah.
Yeah, they're going on and they're saying, you know, they're just giving it terrible, terrible reviews. Even though everything I've seen about it, it's The Last of Us, but more. And they've done what I think is the key thing for a sequel, which is keep the core DNA of the game and just build upon it, give you more to play around with. Like, the environments are more open now. It's never an open world, but you get, you know, kind of like hubbish elements. You can wander around and do what you want to do. And as I mentioned, Ellie's got more movement options, so combat is a bit more expressive. And yet the story, you know, it's The Last of Us Part 2, story continues. I can't really talk too much about it, and that's not me saying, like, no spoilers here. I literally cannot talk too much about it because I don't know it. So, yeah, I think if you like The Last of Us Part 1, you already know about this game, and it's definitely worth the cost to entry, for sure. About 20, apparently, initial reports are saying 25 to 40 hours of gameplay. And yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect from Naughty Dog. Just a good development house that put love into their work, right?
It's a very unusual reaction, I think, from what you would consider to be quite a loyal fan base of, you know, because The Last of Us is commonly referenced as a lot of people's favourite games, and, you know, it got pretty much consistent 10 out of 10s, if not 9 out of 10s, like, across the board, review-wise. So it's interesting. I guess people are worried about it, the second one, tarnishing the reputation of the series as a whole. But you should just want more of it, right?
I feel like it's almost a case of the fans hijacking the series in a strange way. They take so much ownership of it that they feel
like it's theirs.
It. Yeah, they're like, no, Naughty Dog, don't make another one. Well, it's like, well, there's more. Maybe there's more of the story to tell. And for all accounts, it seems like the story does evolve well. You know, you're playing Ellie as she's growing up in this world, and you kind of saw her introduction to it in the first game. So it seems like a natural enough evolution of the story, and they don't mess around with it. You know, it's not backhanded or half-assed. It's they've dedicated themselves to it. It's a well-written story that has all the same complexities as the first Last of Us. You know, they're really keen on that narrative drive, and that comes across. It's an odd one that people are deciding to hate on it because they thought The Last of Us was all there should have been. Yeah, odd one. But yeah, definitely worth a pickup if you have the correct console, which I do not, and if you're a fan of the previous game. I think this is definitely one to look at. And now, moving on to the indie spotlight, I'm going to talk about Pamela, which is coming at us from NVYVE Studios. That just rolls off the tongue. 18th of June 2020. This one I picked because we've been talking about Bioshock a lot. Me and you, just personally, we're just throwing backwards and forwards. I've been playing Fallout. Post-apocalyptic kind of open world games. We've been into that kind of that style of game lately. This is the second game from a small studio, and it's described as an open world sci-fi survival horror. It's been in early access for quite a while, but it seems like they've just released the final version of the story element of the game. It's set in a utopian city after a virus has ravaged the population. And I felt like it's a bit like Dead Island and System Shock meet The Surge, and there's a little bit of survival stuff in there too, like building bases and walls to keep infected people out and stuff. It seems interesting. Everything I've watched on it, it's very, very slow paced. Like it's a crawl at sometimes. Like Prey, the opening levels of Prey, quite slow. You're just kind of rummaging through bins and drawers and stuff, trying to find out what's going on, and then the action slowly ramps up. This has a lot of that. Like, it starts off very slow with you just kind of moving through this environment, and then eventually you encounter the infected and things slowly ramp up. It has a persistent time of day, and you have to worry about eating and drinking, standard survival stuff. Yeah, this is kind of a shorter little shout out, I guess, for the game. It just seems like an interesting project that I think deserves a little bit of attention. It captured my attention at least. I thought it was interesting one to talk about. But yeah, that's my three games for this episode.
Cool, thanks, Matt. I'm enlightened as always.
No worries, man.
You're making so much noise.
So I'm gonna close my noise flaps and pass over to Sam, who is going to tell us about news and the wider world of gaming. So what's been cracking off, Sam?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Do it.
I'm actually going to tell you out of order in the way that I've written it down, because I'm going to start with the smallest and then build up.
Okay.
So my first one is that SGDQ, Summer Games Done Quick, has become an online-only event. Much like a lot of things from this, become a victim of coronavirus and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. It was initially delayed to August, but now it's been cancelled as an in-person event, which isn't surprising because they did that with... No, they didn't do that with HGDQ. That didn't happen. They did like a mini event where they did Corona Done Quick.
Okay.
Well, they did maybe like a long weekend event. So they're showing they could do it. So I shouldn't imagine there'd be too many problems putting on this. But nonetheless, it's still pretty sad because I think we're both pretty big GDQ fans in general.
Yeah, I enjoy watching them. They're good background noise, and you sometimes see some crazy things.
Yeah, they're just good watching. Like you said, they're good background as well. That's what I primarily use them for, but every now and then I put my full attention onto one. And I aspire to go to one someday. But yeah, the official tweet from GDQ is, quotes, "In light of COVID-19, we have made the difficult decision to cancel the on-site portion of the event, being Summer Games Done Quick 2020, and instead proceed with an online-only event. It's going to be broadcast from the GDQ Studios, which I'm not exactly sure where they are, and the runners are just going to play from home, and they're just going to, essentially, they're going to be, I guess, hosting the Twitch streams just on that channel. It's unsurprising, it's still pretty crappy, but, you know, the industry in general, along with every other industry that's needed to do an event like this, has shown that they can pretty much transition to doing online-only events or non-person events. So, esports has shown that it's kind of suffered a bit. I've watched a few Smash tournaments that have been hosted online, and that's more of an issue with like lag and things because you've got people directly competing against each other. But I can't imagine it's going to be a problem here unless they've got technical difficulties hosting some different streams and stuff like that. But my question to you is, Matt, do you think online events are going to become part of like the regular calendar once the COVID issue is all, I don't want to say done and dusted with, because it doesn't seem like there'll be a full end to it just yet. But do you think events like these will become they're not going to supplant or replace in-person events, I'd imagine, but do you think they'll become part of the calendar in some way?
I think there'll be more awareness of them. I think especially with esports, they're not going to be content with competing online. Like, any big esports event is going to be hosted on a very specific, dedicated server that has like 0 ping. Like, nobody wants any kind of lag in an esports environment where there's potentially like millions of dollars on the line. You know, you just can't have someone's input buffer affecting that. So I think in that way that esports is always going to have a view to going back to being in person. As for GDQ, people submit world records for games all the time digitally. You know, it's quite a common thing. But I think they've got to want the events, aren't they? It's not just the runners or the people watching the runners. It's the hotels. It's about going to a convention type area, having a weekend away with your mates. It's the whole atmosphere around it. I think that's what's desired. So I think there'll be more awareness of the online scene, but ultimately it's going to go back. Or, well, I shouldn't say it's going to go back. There will be a view to putting it back to how it was.
It's probably a better business decision as well from hosting an in-person event. You just, I imagine, make more money from doing that. Not that it's all about that, but, you know, they have to think about surviving and keeping going, and you can't do that without having some kind of economic factor to what you're doing.
Yes, it's all well and good selling online tickets, something, but you're not getting their room and board, you're not getting them eating out, buying drinks, getting merch. I mean, maybe you'll get them getting merch, but, you know, less impulse buys in general, I think. So yeah, it's definitely, it's not optimal for SGDQ to be hosted only online.
Yeah, I agree. My next one is that there has been a data breach from Nintendo. That's actually worse than they thought. So back in April, Nintendo announced that they had a breach of security, and this kind of came at the time when it was trying to be brought to their attention by Switch users. People were saying that there was weird things on their accounts, and they were getting emails to say they'd had like different sign-ins, things like that, where their accounts had been accessed in some way, and it was just kind of falling on deaf ears a bit. But they eventually looked into it, and what they thought to be around the 150 to 160,000 people mark as in affected, that's almost practically doubled to about 300,000 people.
Oh, geez.
Which, not ideal. Nintendo says the affected accounts have had passwords reset and the people have been all told. So if you have been one of the affected people, you should have received some form of communication from Nintendo to say this is what's happened. And they've also said that the affected accounts are technically less than 1% of Nintendo IDs worldwide, which, from an analytics point of view, great, but if you're part of that 1%, that's still not a comforting statistic, you know? That doesn't make you feel any better.
Yeah, 300,000 people is a lot of people, regardless of what your entire customer base is.
Yeah. So I think, I get what they're saying, but if you're still within that group of people, you're still not going to be happy. But refunds have apparently already been issued to people that have been like charged or lost money in some way. Nintendo also says that at present there's no evidence to suggest Nintendo's own databases, servers, or services have been accessed in any way. This again kind of suggests the login data was used to access accounts. To access these accounts was obtained somewhere else. A tactic that's apparently known as credential stuffing. Okay. For those who don't know what that is, because I had to look into it as well. Credential stuffing is a type of cyber attack where stolen account credentials, typically consisting of lists of usernames and or email addresses, and the corresponding passwords are used to gain unauthorized access to users' accounts through large-scale automated login requests. That was a mouthful. So yeah, did a bit of cybersecurity plugging and digging up on that to find out what happened. And there's been an official statement from Nintendo since they've looked into it and found out the numbers have been bigger. It says, quotes, "While there is no evidence that Nintendo's databases, servers, or services were breached, and while we can confirm that no credit card information was compromised, we took precautionary measures to help safeguard our customers. We discontinued the ability to use a Nintendo Network ID to sign in to a Nintendo account, and we reached out to all customers whose accounts we had reason to believe were accessed without authorization to help them take additional steps to protect themselves."
That's good.
So they're at least doing something about it now, and it doesn't seem like people have been too adversely affected by it, but it's just another thing, right? They're not at least they're not what happened with Sony, I want to say a couple of years ago, when they had the DDoS thing and people got locked out for a few days. My view is that Nintendo has always seemingly been behind the times, especially in terms of like online infrastructure, which we've definitely experienced personally playing or trying to play Smash online. It's just a few things that definitely don't flow about it. Like when you want to change character, if you're in a queue, you have to jump to the back of that queue to do that. Not ideal. Even if you want to like change the music in an arena, you have to go back, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. Do you think they need to fall in line with or catch up to Xbox and PlayStation? Or do you think their audience really isn't too concerned about playing online? Like, you don't really get that many Switch games that I guess are poised for PvP online play, I guess.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna let you answer, Matt.
I mean, I can only talk about my experience. I don't really know either. I mean, they've got Fortnite. Fortnite's on the Switch. They've got Apex Legends coming to the Switch.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, they do have bigger online titles, but it seems like it's less of a networking issue and more of like a usability. Because when a third party is using Nintendo Online, it seems to be okay. But when you're using a Nintendo game that has online, there always seem to be like slight usability issues. Like it's not as considered as you'd like it to be, but then Nintendo isn't really targeting 30-year-old online gamers. You know, that not
true
the demographic. So I don't think it's terrible. It could definitely be better. But in this specific case, at least they're taking action and they're making people reset their passwords and whatnot. Hopefully help those people out who have suffered.
Yeah. My final one, much like your news item of The Last of Us, I couldn't really ignore the fact that the PS5 has been unveiled to the gaming populace. The design has also been revealed, as well as the specs. It doesn't seem to have come out as powerful as the Xbox X, but I don't know if that really matters. I think it's got a custom SSD, if I remember right.
Okay.
There was some quote about Horizon, the new Horizon, that would basically have no loading zones because the loading times would be that fast.
That's not the first time I've heard that.
It's a story we've heard before. This game doesn't have any loading zones. You're just in a lift a lot.
Yeah. We're going to get another sweet, like, Killzone-esque E3 moment.
You know what? If you want to see like the pinnacle of lifts hiding loading, Dead Space 2. Great game, but there's a lot of lifts in that game.
It's just one game. Yeah, there's no loading screens.
Yeah, there was the focus seems to not really be too much about the console. It was just kind of like, here it is, this is what it looks like. There's been a few resulting memes from it. People have compared it to, I've seen it compared to fans, I've seen it compared to broadband router, seems to be the most common one. There's also seems to be I've seen stuff about custom designs that you can get some pretty funky designs of stuff already. For like Spider-Man and Resident Evil and stuff. But there seems to be some pretty cool games that have come out of it. I've seen Ratchet and Clank, I've seen the one for Resident Evil 8, the Spider-Man, Miles Morales, which no one quite knows exactly what label to put on it.
Yeah, it's like a
expansion, reimagining
DLC
thing, remaster, remake. No one quite knows exactly what it is, but it looks cool. I think it seems to be the first game, but if Miles was Spider-Man as opposed to Peter Parker.
Okay.
That's how I understand it, but I may be wrong. The aforementioned Horizon, and I've seen Deathloop as well, but I don't think that's an exclusive.
That got launched, well, not launched, but announced ages ago, didn't it? I remember seeing
Yeah, it's been in the oven for a while. Yeah. And I think I said to you, I remember thinking, oh, this is giving me Dishonored vibes. And then they literally did the blink, and I was like, okay, so this is Dishonored. And it was made by Arcane and Bethesda, who literally made Dishonored. So
they've got a style. They're sticking to it.
Yeah, not saying that it's going to be bad. It looks cool. It looks like it's got a bit more character than Dishonored. So I'll probably end up picking it up at some stage. There's been some comments on the size of it. I think that we also spoke about privately, that maybe it's a case of this. They haven't really got anything to scale it against yet, so no one quite knows whether it's going to be this huge mini fridge sat underneath the TV or not. But I don't think it'd be too bad.
Just put a 50p in the shot with it. Give us a scale.
Just give us some frame of reference.
Yeah, come on.
Do you know what I'm going to say as well? I'm not crazy about the controller.
Isn't it virtually identical to the PS4? I thought it was very similar.
Do you know what? The hand grips, whatever you want to call them, they look a bit too long and pointy for me.
Oh.
I don't know what it is about them. They just look too... To me, it's gone a bit too over the tipping point of almost like gimmicky, futuristic-y.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Design over function.
Yeah, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure there'll be some PlayStation people that will say that Xbox sucks and PlayStation's better, which, yeah, at the moment it definitely is. It's got a holiday release window. I don't think they officially announced the release date when it's going to be out. But if history is anything to go by, it's going to be a late November or mid to late November release, so everyone gets it for Christmas.
Okay. That's pretty typical.
Yeah, it's the common play, just so everyone gets it. Everyone gets paid at least before the start of December, so parents can get it for their kids. Makes sense. What do we think, Matt? I've got as my main question here for you, as yourself being a PC gamer and me not being so. Do you think the age of the console? Do you think it's the last maybe we'll see of it?
I think we had a conversation ages back on a really early episode.
It was on the I think when we did the question about the decade of gaming.
And we spoke about the movement for gaming consoles away from being toys to becoming more like multimedia.
They're more
centers.
PC. They're more like PC-esque things. Yeah, I think they want to be the only thing that's underneath your TV. You don't need a skybox. You don't need a Blu-ray player or whatever.
Yeah, it's like back in the day when we used to get, or I had back in the day a combo DVD and VCR player, and that was the thing underneath my TV, and that was the absolute dog's bollocks back then. And now we've got a similar kind of theme where they want to be everything. You want to play a game, watch a Blu-ray, watch Netflix, access the internet, do whatever you want to do. You can do it all through this console, but it's not as inaccessible as a PC. As much as I don't find PCs inaccessible, there are a lot of people who may or don't have enough use for a home computer. They
can't justify having
tablets.
a whole PC just to do, if they want to do like one or two things with it.
Yeah, and you can just browse the internet on consoles already, right? They have internet browsers.
Yeah, they've got a built-in browser. Yeah,
so they're becoming multimedia centers, but they have been for a long time. So I think that's why the size thing doesn't really. If it's big, okay, it's big. It's just going to replace whatever else you had underneath the TV.
Yeah, I agree. I'm of the mindset that I think I'm not too fussed about specs and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really mean too much to me. Probably to the more tech savvy people it does. I'm all for having 60 FPS over 30, but I know there's some people that so the average PC gamer, if you said this is in 30, they'd look at you in disgust. It's not 144.
200 frames a second. I don't even want to know.
Yeah. So that's my thing, is that I feel like the people who this does matter to, by performance and things like that, do, for the price tag that's probably going to come around that, 400 to 500, you could look at least investing in a PC if you want that type of gaming experience. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I don't know. I fail to see the kind of market that kind of console is aiming for. I mean, if stuff is naturally better and it's easier to put that stuff into, then why would you not do that? But I don't know. I don't see the market, but well, what do I know?
Neither one of us are leaders of industry, sadly.
Exactly. So what do we know? But yeah, that's my news for this week.
Thank you, Sam. I am enlightened as ever.
You're welcome.
Arch-Lictor's Canticles!
So that's enough of me rambling about things I know nothing about. And we're going to jump into the episodic question, which this time is, who are some of our favourite gaming protagonists? And Matt is going to start us off.
Yes, I am. This was an interesting one. There's a history. There's a lot of games I've played and a lot of protagonists to pick from. So I tried to pick, ones that were interesting or fun, or So my first one I've put on my list here is the Doom guy / Doomslayer. I think in the series that he's in, he is perfect for the setting, tone. He's just exactly right in that universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just violence personified amongst demons, and he's exactly what you need. You don't need any complex character arc, backstory. You don't need it. You just want to watch him rip an imp's arm off and then shove it up his arse. That's all you want to see from him, and he does that.
If you had to pick which one was which one was better?
Oh well, spoilers, Sam.
Okay.
They're the same. This is if you've not played Doom Eternal, they are the same.
Okay.
It has a direct continuity with Doom 64.
Okay, fair.
So yeah, the classic Doom is, we all love it, and then the Doomslayer fits the same purpose.
I didn't know if the Doomslayer was like a mantle. You know what I mean?
There's
kind of like Batman that he picked up.
It kind of is. Like putting on the Praetor armor makes him part of. I tell you what, I'm not going to spoil everything in the what little story there is in Doom Eternal. Go play Doom Eternal, and you'll see there's a bit of backstory in Doom Eternal about that, and by a bit there's actually quite a lot of exposition in that game. My next one is Victor Saltspire from Vermintide 2, and this is because he's hilarious. His voice actor is just going for it all the time. Like, now burn, you heretic. Nah. He's just like yelling all of these insane voice lines out. Healing potion over here. Just this like hilarious.
He had a great time with it.
Yeah, you can just tell it was just fun. It was just fun him yelling out all this stuff, and I enjoy playing as him and playing with him, hearing his voice lines. It made me laugh. Talion from Shadow of Mordor is a little bit more serious and a bit more backstory-esque. At the very beginning of Shadow of Mordor, this isn't a spoiler, his entire family gets killed right in front of him. And then you get killed performing a ritual. And then you get bonded with the wraith of Celebrimbor, who was one of the founders of made the One Ring. So Celebrimbor's mission is to not let the One Ring fall into the wrong hands, and Talion's mission is to die so that he can be with his family. He doesn't want to keep being brought back to life. He doesn't want to have to do this. He's lost what he had. He had a nice life with his family on the walls of Mordor. He was a ranger, pretty good at it. And that is one of the best intros to a game as well. When they set up the mechanics, you start off like teaching your son how to sword fight, and that's how you learn the parrying and like riposte mechanics. And then the way that you learn the sneaking is you sneak up on your wife and give her flowers. So you're like moving past people in this little area, and then it goes to a section where the wall has been sacked by orcs and uruks and stuff, and you have to fight through with your son, and you get more of the sneaking mechanics there when you're going like sneaking past uruks and things. But yeah, that whole intro is great. I just thought it was interesting to have a character who wants to die, who wants he's tortured by the fact that he keeps being brought back to life. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space, because of course, especially Dead Space 1. I think I liked, even though he said nothing, that's when I liked him the most. Like you get
it's a different kind of thing to portray a character that doesn't speak, or like a third-person character that doesn't speak, because obviously you still see them.
Yeah.
And so you still get that reaction from them. Like, spoilers, when you find out that Nicole isn't real, I think you find that out before, like, the final 20 minutes of the game, like, just before the final boss. And it's like a real... It like hits him like that was his entire mission, to find and save his girlfriend, and the fact that now she's dead and he's been strung along the whole time. You know, it's quite a gut punch that makes you think, well, why even bother? I'm doing this now just to get off this planet. There's nothing in it for me.
Yeah, you're just trying to get off the Ishimura. And I think there's a lot, like you said, about watching him in the third person. You do get a lot from the way that he moves and reacts around the ship, like looking towards noises and things in the environment. And I remember some of the most tense moments in the series as I've played it is when you go outside the ship and all you have is the heartbeat and the sound of Isaac breathing, and that the portrayal of that tension is just so great. But yeah,
the sound design of that is really good. Yeah,
like you really do feel like you're confined in that suit, and I enjoy him as a character. And my last one is...
if you want a good time, look up... I think there's a YouTube video of all Isaac Clarke's voice lines from Dead Space 2, and there's just about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes of him just screaming. It's great.
Didn't we look up all of the necromorph noises?
Yeah, the guy who's the... I'm going to call him the sacker, the guy who suicides, who throws... He's got a big yellow sack of an arm that explodes, and he has like... They must have had like a mouthful of water, and they're just like...
There are some choice screams.
Yeah, whoever did that, they had a great time.
And then there's Jill Valentine from Resident Evil. I enjoyed seeing her move from the events in the Spencer mansion in the Arklay Mountains. I enjoyed her. You know, the writing is terrible in the first game, and it's poorly acted, but you get the sense that she's just highly trained but not ready for what she's involved in. And then I thought specifically in the remake for Resi 3, I really enjoyed the way that they wrote her. As much as I thought that game was a rip-off because it was so short, I really enjoyed the writing in that game, and she's portrayed as someone who's, well, she's initially portrayed as someone who's kind of tortured by her past experiences, but toughened by them as well. And she doesn't accept any bullshit. She's strong, capable, and she's just able to get through this environment and use what she knows to her advantage. And she keeps getting that. There's quite a few funny backwards and forwards between her and Carlos, where Carlos will like make a pass at her or something, and at one point she literally just says "fuck you," and then carries on doing whatever she's doing. And I just... Isn't
that when he calls her a tall glass of water?
Yeah.
So she's a badass though. I love Jill.
Yeah, Jill is sick. I enjoy her as a character for sure. But that's
like you said, she's got a good evolution like over the games, particularly in the remake where they like flesh her out a bit more.
Yeah, in the old one, she's not terribly written, but I feel like she was just better written and a little bit better explored. Again, in the early parts of the game, you get a bit more of an exploration of who she is, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my paltry few. What about you, Sam? Who you got?
I'm going to say the OG protagonist. You can't say a list of protagonists without mentioning Mario. As much as he is, like, he's not for imprinting the soul of the player. He's not Link. And interesting, I haven't put Link on here. I think because Smash has made me hate Link. But yeah, I love Mario. I definitely prefer Mario games over Zelda games. That's just my opinion. But
fair enough.
He is the game protagonist. If you ask people that don't really know gaming who's a video game character, they'll probably say Mario. Like, he transcends gaming. He's like an icon.
He's a face of Nintendo, right? He's more than just...
Yeah, he is like more than gaming. Yeah, he's like a brand icon, basically. I've got Kratos. Even though I've not personally played God of War, PS4 God of War, Christopher Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, who did his voice acting, that's some of like the best voice acting work I've ever done. I did that. I've ever heard.
Chris Judge, is that you?
Yeah, boy. And that alone, like the fact that there is a cut on YouTube of just every time he says boy, it's made me want to have a son so I can call him boy. I've got Tommy Vercetti from GTA Vice City.
Okay.
There's a lot of you could pick one of the many GTA characters. A lot of people might pick Carl from San Andreas. Some people might pick one of the GTA 5 characters. People probably have got a soft spot for Trevor because he's like the spirit of GTA personified, of like chaos and, you know, stealing a car and then flying into a military base and then hijacking a plane. But Tommy was like a good balance of, he wasn't like insane, but he was like, you wouldn't mess with him. Like if you knew him in real life, you'd command a lot of respect. And I think he was just a cool character that was like cool and fit within the world, wasn't like a ridiculous caricature of a character. I've got Booker DeWitt, which people might not, you know, Infinite gets a lot of slack for becoming this, you know, it started off as like a really cool story and an extension of Bioshock, but then it just kind of turns into another first-person shooter with a bit more story laid over the top. And we could start our own podcast about the Bioshock Infinite story.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot of things going on, but I think it's the fact that it's Troy Baker. He is, I think, him and Nolan North. They're running the video game voice acting business right now.
There's like about six or seven voice actors just pop up all over the place.
I'm pretty sure he won like a BAFTA or some kind of gaming award for maybe like a golden joystick or something like that for his voice work as a character. Maybe I think it was for Uncharted 4.
Okay.
And he says that, I regularly get requests or people asking for advice of how to start off as a voice actor. And he says, it's easy. You just have to wait for me and Nolan North to die.
He is not wrong.
Got Coltrane, in my opinion. Best thing about Gears of War.
Fair enough.
You know, Gears is, as a series, is pretty much just the same story, more or less, iterated every time. You thought they were dead, but now they're back because they adapted. But he's the comic relief, but he's not. He's like. Gears is pretty much beefy 80s action hero campness, just updated for today. And Cole is like unashamedly that. And that's like, he's like the comedic tone that the game needs. But he's no less of a soldier. His intro to Gears 2 as well. And one of the things in Gears 3, you have to plant a bomb on like this locust nest that's like spawning all these things. And it's he's like basically an ex-American football player. And he grabs the bomb and you have to do this sequence where you can't die in it, but you just like run past these people and he has a flashback to him like playing, it's called Thrashball, but yeah, that's a really cool sequence. He like weaves past people, he jumps over one guy, which is cool. Leon and Chris, I've gone the male side of that, Resident Evil to you.
Okay.
They're just cool. Chris, specifically RE4 Leon and RE5 Chris. RE5 Chris just for the biceps.
You go in post shark testosterone Chris, or whatever it was he was injecting directly into his eyeballs to get his triceps to be twice the size of his head.
Any man that can punch a boulder into submission is a real man. I've got Master Chief. Again, he thinks not that many great things came out of like Microsoft originality, but Chief, he's just a badass. He's just he's the hero we need, to quote Halo.
Isn't he
my last one,
Doom guy?
Go on. Yeah, pretty much. The faceless,
voiceless, just a soldier.
Chief speaks, but like,
oh, does he?
His dialogue is like so minimal. Whenever he says anything, it's almost like an event within itself.
Okay.
Like at the end of Halo, I think end of Halo 3, I think you're in a ship that like blows apart, or like you can't get home basically. So he puts himself in stasis and just says, "Wake me if you need me." And that's like they really thought about all of his lines.
Mm.
And then my final one I'm going to end with is Arthur Morgan from Red Dead 2.
Okay.
I either want to be him or I want him to be like my dad. I want to know him in real life because I feel like he's just like wisdom, and he's he's not like self-loathing like Max Payne is, especially in Max Payne 3.
Mm.
But he's aware of his mistakes, and he's like an honest man that knows that he's not had a good, honest life.
Mm.
So, yeah, there's just a lot I feel I could learn from him if he were to be real. Yeah, but sadly, it shall never happen. But yeah, those are my picks.
Nice. I like them. Some good picks in there. So the question for this episode to be answered in the next is a big one. Why do we
philosophical?
Game? Yeah. Why do we game? Why do we game? Why do we game? Just why?
Yeah, I don't think we should say any more than that. I think we should just leave it at that and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Okay.
Anchorage will be liberated.
So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening, as always.
Yeah, thank you for spending your time listening to us wax lyrical about games. And keep your eyeballs on All Things Vox Ludio on YouTube and Facebook. We post things up to Facebook as well, so get involved in the conversation.
Yeah, if you want to interact with us in any way, you can do it on, obviously, the comments on the videos, or you could do it on the Facebook group itself. We've got some new content that we finally made. We've got 3v3, which is going to be a series we've got running forward that's pick a subject, and then Matt and I pick our top 3 from that subject matter. The first one we've done is Legend of Zelda, which we'll link somewhere around here. I'm sure Matt will take care of that.
It will be in the description.
It will. We also did our first interview, which again is another thing we'll probably add to. We spoke to Chris Munasina of Arcade Vaults, which is a gaming venue in Cardiff. So if you're interested in anything like that, go check it out. It's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Chris was great to have on.
Yeah, it was lovely to have him, and we've got little bits of insight into his work as a developer and the origins of the Arcade Vaults. And we've got an interview upcoming with Cardiff indie dev, so keep your eyes out for that one. That's coming. It's coming up.
Yeah, so again, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yes, we will.
Bye.